So PDMS, I want to give you a little PDMS demo. I've done some of these in the past, but I'll show you kind of a little bit more in more detail of what that looks like. So PDMS is our network management tool for phones. And so it's for VVX and Trio predominantly. It is going to be getting the update to support CCX phones as well, but it's not in there yet as of today. So I think later this month. So this is the tool, and so it shows, so this particular PDMS tenant has a total of 184 devices that are being managed here, but only 27 of them are currently online because these are all test systems. So if I go to device monitor, I can see those actual devices and I can see which ones are online, which ones are not online. So I can search for a Trio that I have here, Knopf Trio 8500. So I can see that is not online right now, but my 8800 is online. So I can see this types of data. And then as far as configuring it, we have all these built-in profiles. And there is, in this particular tenant of PDMS, there's 1,395 profiles that are here. It didn't start with that. It started with maybe 700 or 800 that are built into the product. And then people that are using it have built their own profiles. So you can basically, you see profiles in here for certain things. Like let's say somebody was doing Skype for Business. I can search on Skype, and then these are all profiles that are related to Skype. And if I like this one, I can take it and I can copy it and kind of make it my own and make certain changes to it. So you end up with a lot of profiles to configure for basically any type of scenario. So maybe I want to do something with Zoom. So I can take a search on that and I see I have 69 profiles related to Zoom. So you can see we're pretty focused on Zoom right now. So these are all in there. And then, so you basically have all these profiles, which are a set. It could be as little as 1 parameter, or it could be 1,000 parameters within each one of these profiles. And it just makes it easier to configure. So if I go to the deployment, this is where you actually assign which of these profiles get applied to particular devices. So global means that every single phone that registers to this PDMS tenant gets these 11 profiles assigned to it. So basic stuff like the web server is going to be turned on and Microsoft control over software updates is turned off. Basic device lock, we turn that off by default. So every phone is getting these, but it's a hierarchical setup. So as you go to the left, it gets more and more specific. You can have any grouping of devices. So maybe a grouping of New York devices or East Coast devices or something like that. Or a model, or by location, or going all the way down to the particular device. So if I look at my particular device, the Trio 8500, I can look and I have these particular profiles are already assigned. So if I want to see what any of these particular configs are, I can just click it right here. So if I want to take a look at the Zoom config, so I'll click right here, and this will show me these are the actual parameters that are being sent to the device. So I can go in here and change this if I need to change anything about this, like the name of it, what it shows like on the label of it, any of that stuff. I can do that within the config itself. There's one profile I have assigned here, which is giving me icons so that I can use actual the correct Zoom logo as an example on my Trio, so people walk up and they just recognize it and click it. So you can do that just by their resource files, basically. That you just upload the JPEGs into the system, and then you assign them to each registration. So basically each line 1, line 2, line 3, like that. So you have them all assigned like that. So if I want to actually have my Trio use this stuff, then I need to point my Trio to it so it can get provisioning from the system. So right now it's not configured, it's not pointing at any provisioning server. And you can have this done automatically, so when your device boots up on the network, it automatically learns the PDMS address to do it that way. But here I'll show you it manually. So this is my PDMS tenant URL. So I'm going to hit save, and I don't know what that error is. So if I hit save on it, it's going to send that to my Trio. So you heard my Trio just beep. So my Trio is now rebooting, and it's going to come up exactly how I just configured it with PDMS. So it's going to come up and it's going to apply, when it boots up, it's going to apply all of these profiles to it. So it'll have Ring Central on line 1, Teams on line 2, Zoom on line 3, WebEx on line 4. Base profile I set to OpenSIP as opposed to Skype for Business or Zoom or something like that. And then the actual icons, I also configured it to grab that. So the Trio is now booting up and it's almost done. So it's already configured, right? It's still kind of booting, but it's almost done. It's painting the icons. It's still working on that, but it's done basically. So this is how customers are using PDMS to configure VVX phones as well as Trio, and how you get it to configure for the various ecosystems out there. And it's not as easy as I just made it look. It's actually, each one of these configuration parameters, there's a lot of stuff in there. So any one of these parameters or these profiles has a lot of stuff in it, and it's very complex. So that's why we sell that remote implementation. So what we would do for a customer, if they bought the remote implementation or a solution design from us, is we would develop those profiles and which profiles they are, what order they're set, and all of that. So the config that I just showed you is basically what we would hand off to the customer and say, okay, this is what you want to do. You want Ring Central on line 1, Teams on 2, and Zoom on line 3. So they would build that as a custom config. And if they have PDMS, they build it into their PDMS. So they basically have a whole provisioning plan set now. Any questions about that? Okay.